I have a question for you, dear viewer. What is this goo? Don't answer straight away, but keep it in mind, we'll come back to it. I think it's safe to say at this point that Godzilla vs. Kong has problems. Continuity with the MonsterVerse is terrible to the point where you wonder if this is an alternate universe story. World building is shot to pieces, sometimes by design. Characters are inconsistent either between films or solely in this one. Physics is completely ignored for the sake of spectacle, even when that spectacle looks ridiculous. The sense of scale that made the MonsterVerse so unique compared to other films is thrown away, lost to yet more spectacle. The real-world consequences of monsters existing with us have gone from tragic and harrowing to something to be enjoyed? Laughed at? And at the foundations of it all, the writing appears at best schizophrenic, my guess being multiple writers worked on separate scenes without bothering to connect the finer details. A less polite description of the writing would be careless and void of logic. So why, exactly, do we find ourselves with this film? This version of Godzilla vs. Kong, when there are so many others we could have had? I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Godzilla vs. Kong reminds me of The Last Jedi. I know I've made the comparison several times in this series, but really it does. They both always manage to offer some new detail to despise whenever they are looked at again, and again, and again. Indeed, when watching a recent video on Godzilla vs. Kong, I noticed something else that made me shout at my laptop. Why doesn't Godzilla hit Mechagodzilla here? He's facing the other way, so he can't defend himself. His back is wide open. Just burn the bastard! Anyway, back on track. Godzilla vs. Kong and The Last Jedi also feel like they correlate in their mindsets. They had a story to tell, and everything else be damned. Regards TLJ, it was a World War film, complete with trench defences, bombing runs, and long-range arcing bombardments, all in the setting of space, where a lot of these didn't make sense. In Godzilla vs. Kong, there is an unusual focus on conspiracy theories that drove many of the film's story beats and changes to the world. The Hollow Earth had been added to the MonsterVerse in King of the Monsters, first as a joke reference and then as a location to build up the history surrounding the Titans. Godzilla vs. Kong grabbed onto this with both hands, making it the core of the film's narrative. The entrance to the Hollow Earth had to be in Antarctica because Project High Jump was a thing, so Skull Island and all its possibilities had to go. Godzilla was discovered in 1954 with the advent of nuclear submarine tests. But we want to screw up that history by shoving in all these historical conspiracy theories into the credits. And of course, my favourite, adding in a conspiracy nut who takes up half the runtime, taking the audience on a sightseeing tour of secret facilities whilst mouthing off about one conspiracy or the other. As soon as you have this in mind, you can imagine why so many of the issues I've listed already came into being. Why bother making sure the fictional universe is built up properly and makes sense when the focus is on making sure that the definitely real and absolutely not made up conspiracy theories are being referenced? But you do want to make sure fans of the series aren't upset, so make sure you cram in references to the other films as much as you can. Remember the bloody handprint? Remember the tree strip? Remember the ruins? Remember the intimidation display? Fuck it, we'll make him do that for most of the film. Remember the part where he breathed down the Muto's throat? Remember when Kong broke the dinosaur's jaw? Hey, look, he's on a throne. He kind of looks like a king, right? Not that we're allowed to call him that, obviously. Remember all the times Kong was in chains? This does bring me onto a more dour point. If you're a fan of giant monster films, then you'll be aware of the subtext of King Kong. It's a commentary on colonial history, and indeed contemporary colonialism, and the negative effects it has on indigenous peoples. Kong's situation is a sorry reminder of what happened to many of these indigenous peoples. Their world turned upside down, captured and chained up, shipped across the world, and enslaved by a supposedly civilized world. Godzilla vs. Kong had all the imagery, but none of the context. This film has Kong caged, chained up, shipped around the world, tricked into doing things, and told that this new place is his home now, all at the behest and wants of a civilized world that thinks it knows better. This would be questionable normally, but this film treats all of this as a good thing. It's good Kong is caged, it's for his own good. It's good we're transporting him across the world, we need him for our own purposes. It's good we're lying to him, that's his home we're taking him to, at least we think so. Add onto this film's decimation of Skull Island and the killing of the natives thereon, and you begin to question the mentality of the people making this film. Godzilla doesn't escape being abused either. His character is dramatically and negatively changed, his actions that of a Godzilla alien to the monsterverse. He is an obstacle to avoid, an objective to be overcome, and a punching bag for the new kid on the block. He does get a couple of moments, like the laughing, the fear in his eye, and showing mercy to Kong. This was fine with me as it showed a thinking, empathic Godzilla, where until now the film had swapped him out with the demonic horror from GMK. But if they hadn't done that, they couldn't have had an excuse to fight. Right? Big old fisticuffs on the high seas or in the city streets? Big monkey versus laser lizard, yeah! Don't forget Mechagodzilla, we gotta get that metal monster in there. Wait, why did we have to have Mechagodzilla in there? He really felt like a third wheel in this film, and honestly the story would have benefited without him. But how would you end the conflict between Godzilla and Kong? I might go into this in another video, but for now I'll say I'm sure there's lots of ways this could have been resolved. I for one would think professional writers could come up with something better than ripping off Batman vs Superman, because Doomsday definitely worked there and his inclusion wasn't detested at all. Godzilla vs Kong had the same hills to climb that Godzilla 2014 and King of the Monsters had. Whereas Godzilla 2014 and King of the Monsters leant closer to the old fans, Godzilla vs Kong said fuck it and did its own thing entirely, placating the fans of fighting whilst bombarding audiences with spectacle to make up for the lack of messaging the previous films had brought along in spades. Just like The Last Jedi, as a standalone, this concept might have worked, but it was part of a continued narrative, and in trying to do its own thing, failed to continue that narrative. Worse, even if this was a standalone film, the story was utter nonsense, and it relied on the fame of Godzilla and Kong. This film is a misdirected, shallow mess, and nowhere is this more represented than the goo. I asked at the beginning of this video if you knew what the goo was. I've tried to Google this bullshit, but no one seems to acknowledge its existence. The film gives it an offhanded mention, but not specifically, nor by name. It's just there. Feel free to provide your own answers in the comments below, but for me it is a perfect example, a manifestation of Godzilla vs Kong. So focused is the film on the conspiracy theories it wants to represent and getting Kong and Godzilla to fight each other that it ignores details large and small to achieve these goals. I've talked before about how long it would take to get 5,000 kilometers down to the hollow Earth. Godzilla vs Kong says it would only be 1,000 miles, or just over 3,000 kilometers. This means they can't measure for Toffee, but even that is a considerable distance. Kong needs to get to the hollow Earth in less than 7 times the runtime of this film, so some goo was added that magically allows him to teleport down there. We are not meant to question the goo. We are not meant to question what we're watching. We are only meant to clap at the pretty lights and consume the product. One more thing. I completely forgot about something, which is fair considering the film deliberately forgot about them. The Titans. We have a planet covered, filled with them, but the film decided it couldn't be bothered with them. How not bothered? I can't tell you from watching this film if the Titans are alive, dead, hibernating, on the Earth's surface, in the hollow Earth. I just don't know. This is meant to be the last video in this series, but I'm tempted to make another just to explore all the possibilities this film passed over, because there's so many. For now, add Titans to the list of things we missed out on. Let us all mourn for the loss of a great series, and the great disappointment, the great sadness that is Godzilla vs Kong. Thank you for watching this video and for sticking with me for this journey. It took longer than expected, but we got there. This film wasn't great, was it? It's a shame how far our heroes can fall in such a short space of time, but I'm sure they will rise again. You can't keep a good monster down. Maybe for my next video I'll look into something more positive. For now, feel free to like, share, subscribe and pray to the new god Algorithm that this video gets promoted. If you fancy giving me money or just want something shiny and weird around your neck, feel free to visit my Etsy store, link in the description. Once again, thank you for watching.